Please welcome 2024 National Inventors Hall of Fame inductee, Lanny Smoot.
This week, the National Inventors Hall of Fame inducted their class of 2024, including both living and historical pioneers in science. Among them are patent holders in areas like automobiles, agriculture, biotech, and magic, or rather, the means to magical moments. Skylar Henry introduces us to inventor Lanny Smoot. He has over 100 patents and a boundless sense of wonder.
There's no mistaking that signature sound and glow. An icon of science fiction.
This is my lab.
That Jedi lightsaber brought into the real world by Disney's research and development team in Glendale, California.
How long did it take to come up with this?
It was a few tries.
Yeah?
A few early models. And the key is to have a uniform blade, very bright, and full retraction into the hilt. And those were the challenges with something like this.
Lead inventor Lanny Smoot loves a challenge, dreaming up ideas at Disney Imagineering for the last 25 years.
Bridge the gap for me, if you will, between storytelling and invention.
Sometimes you'll have an invention that inspires a story, right? Sometimes I'll hear a good story and realize that a specific technology can make it real. So the two things support each other. My peers on the movie side of things can fake things with computer-generated effects in movies. I have to make them for real.
From live-action props to interactive theme park attractions, he uses science to create joy. But Smoot says his own story was improbable. Growing up in Brownsville, Brooklyn, with a wealth of ideas and encouragement, but very little means.
When I was quite young, probably 12 years old, I saw a unicycle rider. I said, I want one of those. My parents were poor. I made a unicycle by taking the front wheel off of a tricycle because it had the pedals, banging a pipe onto the top of it, putting a bicycle seat on top of that, and rode that around.
Let me guess, you weren't wearing a helmet either.
I wasn't wearing a helmet, and by the way, those tires are not pneumatic. They're not air-filled, so it was a bumpy ride. And I never wanted to ask my parents for a real unicycle, but one day I came home, and it was a unicycle laying up against my bed, because my dad said, I saw you clunking along on the street.
He credits his father for that initial spark.
As early as I can remember, he brought home a battery, a bell, a little light bulb. I was probably 5 years old. He gets the light bulb to light and the bell to ring, and that light lit my entire career.
A career that began at Bell Labs, where for 22 years he made strides in fiber optics and broadband systems. But his greatest pride is his most recent invention.
So what do we have here?
This is the hollow tile floor. It is the world's first omnidirectional, multi-person treadmill floor. It can have any number of people on it, so it's like having an infinite walking surface, but in a finite size.
I'm entering the ship's holodeck, where images of reality can be created by...
Inspired by another sci-fi technology.
I reasoned that it won't work unless you have a floor surface that can have everybody on that floor moving in any direction they want. They might be in VR, but how do you solve the floor problem? This is the solution.
So we're going to let you control our chair here.
Okay.
And I got quite the demo.
I'm just going to teach you the controls to our game here.
Okay.
I think he's been practicing. He's really good.
I could do this all day.
Not to mention a little Jedi training. It's all part of why Smoot now joins the National Inventors Hall of Fame.
This gallery of icons is actually a patented wall.
Rini Paiva is their vice president of selection and recognition.
I think one of the really interesting things about this wall is you also see the pace of innovation.
Here at the NIHF Museum in Alexandria, Virginia, the evolution of invention is on display.
A lot of times these names aren't people who are going to be recognizable, but the applications of their inventions are. We want to show the world how important they are. So that's what we do. We're looking for a patent holder. And then what our selection committee will look at is whether that patent has had some sort of significant impact. So economic, cultural, societal.
And for Smoot's colleagues, change and collaboration are linked. So too is embracing the challenge.
Where does competition play a part?
We compete. He's very creative. I'm very creative.
He is Alfredo Ayala, a Disney R&D executive and Smoot's friend.
Lanny Smoot is a Renaissance man. He's a genius.
And our favorite thing to say to each other is, what's not to like? Now, what does that mean? I might build something that's pretty cool, design something, and he'd come over and say, that's really cool, but is something missing?
And when we say that, and he'll say it to me and I would say it to him, it's kind of like, you win. It's just what's not to like about it.
Their camaraderie seems to hold more weight than their successes, and to Ayala, that's everything.
He represents many people, people like me, and that means the world to me.
I work in a company where creative artists are all over the place, and I could say, oh, look at this horrible looking thing that I made that can do magic. What do you think about it, buddy?
Part of Smoot's magic, advice for the next generation.
Get it out of your head into the world. Many people waste time in their lives by saying, oh, I could have done that, or I should have done that. Do it. Being able to do things that other people might have thought is either impossible or difficult, and if it can inspire young kids to do it, is an honor.
For CBS Saturday Morning, Skylar Henry, Glendale, California.
Venetian glass is perhaps the most famous glass in the world. In the 19th century, the hand-blown glassware was so popular it was sought after by royalty. Today, the intricate pieces are still in demand, with visitors flocking to one Venetian island to see how it's made. There, artisans use ancient techniques to continue the trade, including one entrepreneur who's making waves by turning the old world craft into modern-day art. This is not a bad place to work every day.
No, it's pretty awesome, yeah.
There are few places more picturesque than Italy's island of Murano. And here, along its main canal, Roberto Beltrami found the perfect place to set up shop.
It's unique because it's like a historic building. This is a Byzantine arch from the 1100s.
This building is headquarters for his company, Wave Murano Glass, where 15 skilled craftspeople create glassware, sculptures, and more.
What's really exciting about this craft, every day you learn a little bit more about the material, you're able to control it a little bit more, and your muscle memory, it's almost like being an athlete, right?
At 33, Beltrami is the youngest glassmaster on the island, a designation that means he's an expert in a trade dating back to the 8th century. And with a workshop that's open to the public, his talent is on full display. Beltrami grew up in the industrial city of Brescia. The son of two entrepreneurs, he remembers a specific obsession that would eventually shape his life.
I'd always been a pyro. I burned a couch before I could walk. I would do experiments in the house, melt tin, plastic, make sculptures with wood, cardboard, wax, anything I could find around the house. I would melt soldering tin for circuits in a pot at home and pour it into like plaster molds that I had made to sell jewelry at school.
Oh, that's great. So that side was always there.
Yeah.
He spent his junior and senior years of high school studying in the U.S., then headed to Boston University as a physics major. But before Beltrami could graduate, he went to a life-changing exhibition by artist Dale Chihuly.
Many people cry when they go to see Chihuly exhibitions, and I understand. I walked through the exhibition once, and then I walked another time through it, and then I walked a third time through it, and then I came home and I started maniacally starting look at YouTube videos about glass and researching it, and yeah.
So Beltrami headed back to Italy, specifically Murano, where he interned with a glassmaker for a year and a half before finding paid work. Not an easy undertaking, since the craft is usually passed down within families.
Were you accepted as somebody who wasn't from a glass-blowing family that wanted to learn this craft?
Well, initially, I guess I was, because I wasn't a threat to anyone, right? I was just a little kid that was in love with glass.
Yeah.
But then, over time, I found it more and more difficult to learn and grow because people are very protective of their craft. Really, I always say my biggest teacher was my science background.
Wave Murano was first based out of a small workshop, with Beltrami moving the company to this space in 2020. 2 years later, the European gas shortage hit.
A gas price since we opened the business has always been around 10,000 euros a month, which for a very small startup is an insane overhead. And then our gas price hiked up to 60,000 euros in 1 month.
That can end a business right there.
Yeah, and it would have ended us, but the government thankfully helped us. It took a while for the money to get in our bank account, but in the end it arrived, and so we were able to breathe.
Beltrami's science background also a help, steering him to embrace new technology to help lower operating costs.
So these are like a new school furnace.
Yeah, these are actually from the United States, from my furnace guru from Massachusetts. And together we designed this new format that employs a very efficient heat recuperation technology that's not unheard of, but it's done in a way that makes the furnaces an order of magnitude more efficient than other traditional Murano furnaces.
So saves you a lot of money?
Yeah, 80 to 90% gas savings. So, yeah.
The process of glass blowing is fascinating to watch.
Okay.
He's rolling the pipe inside of a molten glass, and just like honey, he's picking it up because glass, when it's at that temperature, has the same viscosity as honey.
But some of the veteran craftsmen make it look easy, like Federico Rossi, with more than 30 years in the trade.
Right now, he's going to wait for this to cool down so he can add another layer of glass on top of it. And this is how we get enough material to make the piece that we want to make.
One of the final steps requires a mold. This one is modular and made of wood, a less expensive alternative to the traditional cast iron molds.
And as he blows, the glass inflates and of course takes the shape of the mold.
This is incredible.
The factory is staffed by professionals from around the world, including Ana Maria Perez Garrido from Spain.
There are not a lot of women that are glass blowing. What's it like being one of the few?
Well, in Murano, it's not too much woman. It is a long tradition, and I understand the tradition is tradition, but also we need to change that.
One woman at a time.
Okay.
So if I get hooked and I want a job,
Well, yeah, we can
we'll
work
see
that
how I
out.
do.
Yeah,
right?
well,
let's see how I do.
This is your job interview. Yeah.
He wasn't kidding. A lesson and interview all rolled into one.
And what we do is we even out, see how the shape of the glass is evening out?
Yeah.
And when it's nice and even, I'm gonna start a bubble inside of a glass. There we go. You can put that back in the bucket. And now I'm gonna blow a bubble inside of a glass. So.
The glass is heated some more, then a neckline is formed.
See how that's cracking the glass from thermal shock? And now, you're just gonna use this to tap the pipe here.
Just tap?
Yep, harder, like this, yeah.
This is so cool!
I told you were gonna be hooked. Yeah.
Oh my God!
The last step is gonna be removing it, which is often the most critical, that ends up breaking the piece. Perfect.
After my lesson, Roberto went to work. Using ancient techniques and modern inspiration to create another work of art reflecting both.
I get a lot of critique for the approach we have to glass and the changes that we made, and a lot of people still don't believe in the numbers. I try to show everyone about the furnaces that we developed, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I just think I have my vision, and together with my team, we're gonna bring Murano to the next level. Well, to the old splendor and above. Yeah.
If you couldn't tell, I had so much fun. So here's my glass, which is, I said to Roberto, it's perfectly imperfect. I would never get a job, but I feel like I gave it a little thumb holder spot, kind of.
There you
know.
go.
Check out their website. There's so many places there, but I love that he's taking a new approach with something so old. He's not trying to change and like get rid of what they were doing, just do it better, do it differently, do it more cost effectively.
You brought the big, beautiful vase back to me and Jeff.
I did not. I got, but by the way, this is
What is
glass.
that?
This is glass.
Oh,
This is
wow.
a ring. Sorry.
It's a ring.
This is a ring.
And that's for
and
Michelle.
it's glass. Michelle wears it sometimes.
Yes, I
does
do.
she?
She does.
Oh.
It's amazing. Loved it.
It's such a fascinating.
It really is.
The sky's the limit, and the brand new canvas for a new generation of artists. In cities across the country, fleets of flying drones are being used to create dazzling light shows with technology that is still evolving and improving. Jamie Yuka shows us how the eco-friendly entertainment is captivating creatives in Los Angeles and the audiences who see their work.
From film buffs to casual fans, Cinespia at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery has been the place for movie magic for more than 2 decades. And on this night, before the big screen gets rolling, a different kind of show took center stage.
This year, we're going to be doing some drones and a drone show after the movie. We're really excited.
John Wyatt is the founder of Cinespia.
So Cinespia was kind of innovative when it first started. Now you have this innovation coming. Is it kind of a match made in heaven?
Yes, it's kind of perfect.
It's almost the next chapter.
It is. It's a new chapter, and I'm really, really excited to see what we do with it in the future.
Cinespia would typically launch fireworks after showing a movie, but then came creative agency Heads in the Sky.
The second we saw the drone show in real life, the second we saw the words light up and illuminate the night sky, we were like, this is the future of marketing.
Yeah,
this is
right
the future,
from the takeoff.
the future of storytelling in the night sky.
Kevin Prince and Michelle Retorto are the company's co-founders. They were the creative minds behind this year's surprise Grammy drone show.
Truly, you know, the drone show that we worked on together was the aha moment for us of, wow, we are at the forefront of something truly that is about to explode that nobody knows about. And seeing a drone show in real life is unlike seeing anything you've seen in the night sky before.
Their belief in the technology is so strong that they became first-time business owners, forming one of the first creative drone show agencies in the U.S.
But so that you have these steady careers and jobs, like why this?
Why not? Well, we figured the sky's the limit with these types of marketing shows. You know, we can get very creative on the stories that we want to tell. And so nobody's really doing that, I feel. So we wanted to jump on the chance, and we want to invest our time in it.
And that's what they've been doing ever since, with Cinespia being one of their first clients.
When Heads in the Sky first came to you and said, we want to do a drone show, forget the fireworks, what did you think?
I was like, yes, please.
Oh,
because
really?
I was. Their approach was very interesting to me, because they saw a drone show as a little narrative, and that narrative was going to have an emotional component. As soon as I heard that from them, I thought, these people are on the same page. So I was like, let's do this.
Every show starts with a storyboard.
So first you have your intro.
And has a theme.
Drone formation.
The Cinespia theme this night, Harry Potter.
Do people even know what they want?
They want it all, to be honest. So I say if you focus down onto one thing, do you want people to feel something? I think you can cry, I think you can laugh, I think you can be scared, I think you could be surprised. There are a whole slew of emotions that can come from a drone show that are unexpected.
Heads in the Sky works with a drone company to execute the show.
It weighs about what?
About 2 pounds is what
Just
this
2
drone
pounds,
is. Just
even
2
with the
pounds
battery in it.
With the battery.
That's where Rick Boss, president of Sky Elements Drone Shows, helps out.
Is this the star of the show?
This is one of the stars in the show. We're actually going to have 300 stars in the show.
So you multiply that by 300.
Absolutely. We clone them.
And no matter how many drones are in the sky, there's only one engineer flying them all. These drones don't deliver products or have cameras attached for filming. Their sole purpose is to dazzle with their LED lights. Audiences are mesmerized by patterns, shapes, and animations dancing in the dark. Sky Elements has done shows in Texas, creating giant sharks with 1,500 drones.
I didn't even realize the 2 sharks would be this massive.
And a tribute show to Kobe Bryant.
MVP is none other than Kobe Bryant.
How many can you go up to?
So we've flown shows as high as 2,000 drones.
Is that scary?
It is a little bit, because when there's 2,000 drones in the sky, that means there's $5 million in the sky. So that can be a little scary.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's a big number.
It is a big number.
Other light shows have also recently been displayed all over the world, in places like China showing off this dragon, and Dubai with a New Year's Eve show over the water.
I think drone shows are going to become like skywriting at night. I think they're going to become as ubiquitous as skywriting is now during the day, but like on steroids. So it's like kind of like you're going to be driving down the highway, and if you haven't seen a drone show in real life yet, mark my words, a year from now you will have seen one.
I mean, even this year, I feel like we've seen more than we've ever seen.
And we'll likely continue to see even more, with drones constantly evolving, enhancing the detail, making for bigger and better shows.
It's just the beginning of the technology, and I think it's going to become something that's really, really creative and cool in the future.
For CBS Saturday Morning, Jamie Yukas, Los Angeles.
Nearly everywhere you turn on the streets of Paris, you can spot art, whether it's hanging in a museum, spray painted on a wall, or in the design of the city's buildings and monuments. But Jamie Yukas met a local artist who's getting a lot of attention for being a little more quirky, and she joins us now again. We love quirky.
Don't we love weird,
we love
quirky,
yes.
unique, all those words? Yes, and his name is Victor, Dana. And while he says he cannot be identified in order to keep his project going, he did take us along for his latest installation in what he's calling 3D graffiti.
While most visiting Paris for the Olympics are trying to spot the Eiffel Tower or get a glimpse of the Louvre,
so the way it works is finding a spot that's intricate, that's weird.
Victor's hoping you find these much smaller 3D printed objects in places you'd never expect.
It starts with creating a 3D model that is first featured into like a reality bending kind of animation that we share on our social platform.
On Instagram, his handle, 3DFeedy, has more than 400,000 followers. That's where the Olympic Committee spotted his work and partnered with him for the Games.
The setting for those animations is a specific location on a street in a city in the world. And in the meantime, we 3D print that object, which is stamped with a QR code, and we place it at that very location, right? And that's when the scavenger hunt part starts.
Before the Games started, he placed torches around town. If people found them, they won tickets to events. Now he's placing miniature Olympic mascots all over the city.
No way!
The reactions are priceless.
I saw that it was near my home, so I went here just before a meeting, for which I'm late now, but it's all right. Super happy to have found it.
Victor has been doing the 3D printing of quirky objects in his dining room for the last 18 months. He says when the Olympic Committee called, he found it the perfect partnership.
The outdoor, the friendship, the celebration of humankind. There's a lot of that in my project, since it's all about like giving away, getting people out of their homes.
This morning, we're getting a fresh new look at an old classic. In 1889, Vincent van Gogh checked himself into a psychiatric hospital in southern France. And it was there he completed some of his most notable works. That includes irises. This masterpiece has been studied by artists and historians for more than a century. But now, researchers are using the latest technology to give us a look at the painting that's never been seen before. Danya Bacchus has this story.
Tucked within the modern and mighty architecture of Los Angeles' most noteworthy art museum, the Getty Center, is a colorful and quaint 135-year-old painting hung on the wall of a meticulously lit one-room exhibition.
This is one of the first paintings he created from a particular period in that short lifetime of his. I think for the Getty to acquire a painting of that stature was extraordinary.
One of Debbie Orman's interests when she joined the Getty as conservator 10 years ago was to study in depth the museum's most famous work of art, irises painted by Van Gogh.
It's a perfect subject for the types of work that Debbie and I do every day at the institution.
Catherine Patterson's scientific expertise in this kind of project would help unearth what can't be seen with the naked eye.
What that means on both the micro scale of the materials and the actual chemical elements that are in there, all the way up to the macro scale.
But there was a key challenge preventing such a project from happening. The painting's popularity meant it was always on display. But in one day, that all changed.
This painting never comes off the wall for the most part, but the pandemic gave you guys the opportunity to take it down.
Absolutely.
And look closely at it.
Yes, the museum closed to the public during the pandemic, and it really was the opportunity to study the painting really closely, uninterrupted.
Discovering this thin silver lining in a sea of the pandemic's darkness was the beginning of a multi-layered investigation to answer a century-old question.
So we wanted to know about color. We wanted to know about how materials were changing over time. The first step to understanding that is to know what the materials are.
Scholars have believed for years that the blue irises we see today were originally painted by Van Gogh in a different color, based on these letters he wrote in 1889 describing them to his family.
So one of the main questions we wanted to answer was, were these petals actually violet?
And there's such a deep science that goes into that. I mean, you're in a lab.
Absolutely.
This isn't something that you're just looking at with your eye and saying, oh, we can tell that it's changed.
We have techniques to focus on all of that material identification. And once we know what something is, we can make educated guesses about how it's changed over time, if it has.
The revelation of the painting's true violet color occurred one day in the lab when Orman, Patterson, and their colleague were examining the painting under the microscope, looking beyond the surface, inside of the microscopic cracks.
But it was that moment where we were just like, oh my God, this is actually what we've been looking for. And it was kind of emotional, if I have to admit, because of the time that was in it. You know, it was a pandemic, there was lockdown, there was a lot of suffering going on, and again, it sort of brought the whole feeling of Van Gogh and what everyone was going through at the time.
I remember thinking, this is the first time in 130 years we've had the extraordinary privilege to know what Van Gogh actually meant us to see.
Another discovery in the paint led them to experience what Van Gogh actually did see in the garden of the psychiatric hospital in France where he painted irises.
We came across a strange-looking object stuck in the paint, and it looked like organic matter, like maybe some sort of plant or maybe an insect, and we really weren't sure.
During a visit to the Saint Paul de Massol Hospital, among the violet irises of the botanical meadow, which has hardly changed since Van Gogh was a patient, was the answer.
Surprisingly, found all over the garden on the floor, tiny little pollen cones, which matched exactly the pollen cone that we have in the painting, so stuck in the paint.
These moments were the catalyst for an exhibition titled Ultraviolet, New Light on Van Gogh's Irises, that opened at the Getty in early October. The exhibit showcases the team's investigation and discoveries. In a new approach, they used 3D imaging to reconstruct the painting to appear, in their best estimation, how Van Gogh originally painted it.
The science is done, and then they come to you, and do they say, we need you to recreate a Van Gogh?
Something like that. They said, we have all of this research, you know, can we make this into a visual image and maybe something that we can show for the exhibit?
Johanna Herrera is a leading imaging specialist at the Getty. She took the data and used a process called photogrammetry, a technique that used high-res photographs of irises to create a 3D model.
What was it like trying to make sure that you had the right color?
That took a lot of iterations. It was about 6 months worth of meetings and changes and refinements that had to be done so that all of these gradations of purple could be captured accurately.
A new take on one of the Getty's most iconic paintings, and the perfect illustration of what happens at the intersection of art and science.
The work that Debbie and I do together is as sort of CSI art. What we do when we work together is to try to understand what's happened to it, who's been involved in its story, and one of the real privileges we have is to have the time and access to understand it at that very deep, very intimate level.
That it's much, much more than just a beautiful picture.
For CBS Saturday Morning, Danya Bacchus, Los Angeles.